During this episode, we have the opportunity to interview the master of the headshot, Peter Hurley. We're going to talk to Peter about the headshot. We're also going to talk to him about what's in store, what he's got to come in the future. And then third, I took some headshots of my daughter to recreate the Peter Hurley look, and I'm going to have him critique it and tell me what he thinks. Let's get started. Hello and welcome to photographytv.com. Now, if you're not familiar with photographytv.com, we're a site that's designed to educate, entertain, and inspire you around photography. And today's episode is no exception to that. So please subscribe to us on YouTube to follow along. Let's get started with Peter. Peter, welcome to the show, and thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah,
I'm glad I'm on. This is cool.
All right, cool. So, Peter, I thought we'd start with just dissecting the headshot. Obviously, that's what you're famous for. You're phenomenal at it. I'd love to start really at the beginning. How did you get into photography? And more importantly, how did you come up with the style and really focusing on the headshot?
It was based out of necessity. I was a model, actor, bartender dude in New York City, and I was sick of bartending, and I was going to try and figure out how to make money. And a photographer who's Bruce Weber, who everybody should know, they should check him out if they don't know, kept encouraging me to pick up a camera. He was my first modeling job was for Ralph Lauren, and he was the photographer. We became friends. And for years, he just said, pick up a camera, pick up a camera. I was like, why would I pick up a camera? I don't know. And I was like, all right, I'm going to do this. So I got a camera, and I just decided maybe I could make some money at this. So I started shooting what I knew, which was I was modeling at the time. So I went to my agency and talked to the agents and said, hey, can I shoot some of the guys? I didn't have a makeup artist, so I didn't really shoot any women. I shot all guys. No, to this day, I don't use makeup on guys at all. But then I had no choice. So, but I couldn't shoot women without a makeup artist. I guess it was more difficult. So most of it was shooting men, and then the agent liked the stuff. One of the guys or a girl that I met, I guess, was going to do her own makeup and was an actress and was like, I need a headshot. And I was like, oh, I've done headshots. And I did them as an actor. So I was like, I think I can do it. And then I tried it and I realized how difficult it is. But I was like, you know what? I remember how much I paid for my headshot. It was quite expensive. And I was like, I'm going to go for it. So I started the business and I did what I liked, which was clean and simple. At the time, there were a bunch of photographers in New York shooting all sorts of stuff. The guy who took my headshots actually shot me on a white background, and I really liked it. I thought it was clean, simple, and I always was a big fan of Richard Avedon's work. So I decided that's it. That's all I'm going to do. And as I started marketing it, it really took off. People liked it. So luckily, because I'm here.
Yeah, absolutely you are. Necessity is the mother of all invention, right? And you made it work. Awesome. So as it relates to the headshot, specifically, what did you do early on before you had the full studio? How did you get started with that? And when did you know like this is going to work and it was going to be a career that you'd be able to run with?
Well, I was shooting, I was living with my brother at the time. I was just coming back from Europe after doing an Olympic campaign. I raced sailboats. I was training for the Olympics in sailing, and the Olympics were over. I had no money. I was like, I'm not going back into a bar. And my brother had like 2 empty bedrooms in his apartment. I said, can I move in with you? And he's like, sure. I was like, can I bring my girlfriend with me? He's like, sure. So we were in one, and then his ex-girlfriend was getting divorced, and she moved into the other. So it was like this big happy family. It was crazy. But after 6 months, he's like, you got to get out of here. And he's like, come on, you got to get your life in order. And that was like the biggest push that I really needed, because he was always the big brother who took care of me. And he kind of kicked me out, and in a way, although he's taken care of me pretty much all my life, as big brother should. But what I wanted, when he told me that he said I had to get out of there, I was like, okay. I started this business. I need to shoot out of wherever I live, which is going to be an apartment in New York City. And I need a big window because I really like natural light, and I want it to face south. So I started looking in buildings that had a big window that faced south. And I moved into one that was a studio apartment, and I plopped my butt on a windowsill and started shooting there. And that was how I built my whole brand was built around that.
Thank you for that. So on your Twitter, profile, it says 90% therapist, 10% photographer. And I totally understand why you came up with that. As I watch some of your videos, is what you do so well is obviously the technical side of things, but you can bring emotion and life out of your subjects. And that's really what makes your work stand out. Talk to us a little bit about that and why it's so important and how you pull it off.
Well, that's what it is. I mean, that's what the thing is for me. It's really about that. When we put a camera, when somebody puts a camera on us, anybody, you put the camera up and you're being photographed, there's a change in everybody. I mean, I modeled for 8 years. You put a camera up in front of me and pointed at me and I changed. So I know everybody getting in front of my camera is going to change. But I don't want them to change. Like, I don't want the camera to affect them negatively. So I have to change them back. So that's early on, it became about that. And I realized it. And I was like, okay, technically the shot looks great, but the person looks out to lunch.
Right.
I'm like, if they don't look like they're like have a thought process going on, it doesn't do it for me. So I started back then a long time ago, just constantly working on my direction and how I direct, and it's tweaked and evolved and changed, and over the years it's been an amazing ride, because now the skill set that I'd say I've acquired through doing it this way is phenomenal, because now I can pretty much handle anybody that gets in front of my camera, no matter how they behave. And I keep getting better at it, and I don't think it'll end. I don't think that, I think technically you can know every button on your camera and every aperture, every shutter speed, every ISO. I mean, you could adjust that a gazillion times and you know it. It's not going to evolve. It's just what the camera's capable of doing. Direction evolves. I've evolved as a director. So that's really what's the coolest thing for me. And one of my biggest pieces of my evolution, I call it misdirection. So with the 90% therapist, 10% photographer thing, I realized I have to figure out what to say to these people or how to behave with these people in front of my camera so that they forget about the camera. And I like to think, I try bouncing whatever goes into my head, I just bounce off my client just to see what happens. And over the years, if you shoot enough people, I have people in front of my camera every day. So I start to go, whoa, wait a minute, that really worked. Let me write that down. And I would take like these crazy notes and I'd put the notes on the back of my lights. I would tape stuff to my lights, or I'd write on my lights what I said that I really liked, that somebody laughed at or responded to or gave me a good look with. Whatever worked, I would write it down. If you don't write it down, like it's gone. You forget about it and it's just gone. You don't have a, there's no way you're going to be able to recover whatever it is that happened in a moment's notice in front of your camera. So I write everything down. Now my assistant writes stuff down. And one day I discovered, I don't know how or when or what happened, but I discovered that if you direct somebody in a way that gives you, I call it misdirection, where you're actually misdirecting them. You're directing them in a way that's totally trying to get the opposite of what you're actually going for. It creates a disconnect between the subject and the camera, which is actually a gift, because now that disconnect happens and they become real again. Our brain can only like harbor one thought at a time. So I started saying things that I found that when people are in front of the camera or anytime, people like to be right, or they like to, if I'm directing them, they want to take my direction and do well with it. Most of the time it's a performance for them. Like they want to do well. So if I direct them and they can't do it, it doesn't feel good. It's just human behavior. It's the way we are. If somebody tells you to do something and you want to do it well, most of the time, most people. Right. I never had somebody come in front of my camera and want to look bad. Like, they all want to look good. They're like, please, can you make me look? I never said, they never came in and just said, hey, you can take it easy today. You don't have to work so hard. Don't worry about me. Like, I'll be fine. Just you don't have to do some. Never had anybody say that. So what it is it's really about getting them to enjoy themselves in front of a camera, which is easier said than done a lot of times, and having a skill set that allows you to do that. So the misdirection thing popped into my brain, and I started doing it over and over and over and over and over again, and refining it and doing it more and doing it more. And I just this month, actually in October last month, I launched a browser-based app called Hurley Isms. Because I started teaching, and I would teach this misdirection thing. In the first class that I taught, the first headshot intensive workshop, I do workshops all over the world, but I did that workshop, and the class were like, call these Hurleyisms. I was like, okay, I forget who was the one particular person that came up with it, but I was like, okay, so we launched this app that runs basically when I used to write down what I said and put it on my lights. I have an app that now runs, and I just put an iPad in front of me. And they're my Hurleyisms, so I don't really do it because they're in my brain, so I don't really need them. But for photographers, they can try it for free, and a bunch come out, and you can slow them down or speed them up, and they just give you things to say. It'll tell you these misdirection things. A lot of the easiest ones are directional based. Now, the things that I say to people, I say them with confidence. So if I give a list of, when you have it on an iPad or something, like 4 will come across the screen, and you can pick which one you feel is most convenient for you.
Right.
If you're not confident saying something, you can't say it to somebody.
Yep.
For me, I'm confident saying everything, so most things. But I feel them out before I say them. So for instance, the directional things, some of my favorites are like right outside so when somebody's standing in front of my camera in my studio, the way that you tilt your head is either going to be normally to the left or to the right, or it would be, left or right. So if I say, I always say like what I really mean in the weirdest way possible. So instead of saying tilt your head to the right, I'll say tilt your head towards the Statue of Liberty.
Nice.
Now if they're standing there, the Statue of Liberty is to their right, and it's south. I'm in New York, it's south, it's fine. Or tilt your head towards the Empire State Building, which is right outside my window to their left. Now that's really what I want, but I'm only saying it that way because I want them to get a shock to be like, now this is what human behavior is about. They'll want to get that right more than they'll care about how they look in front of a camera for a split second.
Great.
And that's when they forget about the camera and they kind of go like, what? And I'm going, yeah. Oh, and by the way, turn your hips towards the Canadian border while you're at it. It's like, I'm like, it's north. You don't know where you are? I'm just messing with them in ways that they're not prepared for.
Perfect.
And what that creates is the disconnect between the camera and themselves, which is better. And then they connect with me because they're just like, this guy's nuts. I didn't expect this. And then it's fun. You have to have a personality for it. But there's little Hurleyism stuff that I love to say that are really simple. And my favorite one is like the first thing I say to everybody. If you put a camera up in front of somebody, 9 times out of 10, they're just going to look blank. They're just going to give you a look that's like this. Just like no expression, no smile, no nothing. Or if they're what I consider like posers, they'll smile like a big fake cheesy smile, which is terrible anyway. But the blank look, I just say, don't look so miserable to them. And then that creates, so what that spurs is the laughter, and then I shoot that.
Yep.
If you don't get laughter from that, then you've got a tough cookie in there, and it could be a long shoot. Anyway, that's the gist of all my direction at the moment, but it keeps evolving. Things keep cropping up. I keep trying stuff. I'm not going to stop this process. I'm a much better director today than I have ever been, and I love it. So it is the juice that keeps me going. So to see there's only so much you could do with the human face, right? But to get in there and tinker with their brain is pretty cool.
Well, I love that you refer to yourself as the director too, because to your point, once you've set up the photography side of it, the technical side of it, then it's the interaction that's going to make them natural, get them comfortable, and then you're just firing away throughout. So I guess follow-up question to that, you mentioned the tough cookie. Obviously don't give any names or anything like that, but like what type of client is the tough cookie, and how do you typically work through that scenario?
Well, there's I did a TEDx talk called Bridging the Self-Acceptance Gap, and I did it with a psychologist. Her name's Anna Rowley, and we met on a job, and then we ended up working together and creating this business, this psychology thing, and the talk was really cool, but it's basically that everybody sees themselves differently than other people. So if you take a picture of yourself that you're not that fond of and show it to somebody else, chances are they're going to be like, that's great. Yeah, that's amazing.
Right.
But you might be like hypercritical and be like, oh, I can't look at it. So that's usually what photographers are contending with. It's people's self-image and how they feel about themselves more than anything else.
That's good.
So, you know, the tough cookie has their self-acceptance gap is huge. Like they don't see. I've had, you know, in my book, I wrote a book called The Headshot. I talk about, and she's also in the TED Talk. I shot Miss Universe, and while I was shooting her, she said her husband was in the room at the time, and this was like 10 years after she won her crown. It was probably, and I was doing a cover of a magazine with her, and I was editing with her, and she turns to her husband, and she goes, "Honey, I can't stand my face," and I was like, "Oh my God, you're kidding me? Oh my God, Miss Universe can't stand her face." That's funny, but you know, the thing is that the thing that's hard and the thing that I think is so intriguing, I walk down the streets in New York and it's just all faces, and it's all different faces, and it's all ethnicities. When I go to different countries and like you see the look of that area that you're in, it's so intriguing to me as well. I think, and I say this in the talk, is that we're born into this body of ours we don't have any control over. We showed up on planet Earth and we started roaming around. And we're roaming around in this. This is what we like. What we do with it and how we feel about it, it's up to us. Like, so society kind of hammers us on it. And this is from Dr. Anna Rowley. She said, we live in a fault-based society. So we see our faults. Every photographer listening to this out here knows what I'm talking about. I've never had anybody walk into my studio and go, "Oh my gosh, you wouldn't believe how radiant my skin is today."
Right.
You are in for this is a lucky day for you. Oh my gosh, my eye color's blasting off. I got my you know, I'm in great shape.
I've got the A game going on today.
Yeah, exactly. I'm bringing it right in. Did you ever get that? No. Immediately you get, oh my gosh, I didn't sleep. I got bags under my eyes.
Yep.
Oh, I should have lost those 10 extra pounds. Oh my gosh, it's just my hair's a mess. I'm having a bad day. I've never had it go the other way, and it's so sad, you know. So it is essentially what, you know, we're contending with, which is pretty incredible. Pretty incredible, because we've been given this gift of a body and to live on this planet, and then we go hammer ourselves the whole time about the way we look, which is crazy. Should be embracing every second that we're breathing.
Well said. And I think that's what brings, you know, the value that you bring is to be able to help people just get natural, get comfortable, and ultimately get the great shots that we know are in it. So thank you for sharing that. I can think of personal experiences where I could have used that type of advice to be more of the director, less of the photographer from a technical side of things. So thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
I'd love to hear what's the future hold for you. What direction are you going? Any new projects? Or talk to us a little bit about what's in store to come.
Most of it is based on, I really enjoy the teaching, so I'm going around the world teaching all these workshops. I've been building out my coaching site, my coaching platform, which is headshotcrew.com. And right now we have a find a photographer link there. And if you go and sign up for the site and register, you'll get into our search. And that search is providing leads and business for photographers worldwide. So I've been doing a lot of speaking. I just spoke for a friend of mine is one of these speakers for personal development. His name's Bob Proctor, and he's amazing. And I've gone through his programs and I just love it. So he invited me to come speak at a event he was having. And I went and spoke, and there were 110 countries represented online live through this live stream. And I turned to the camera and I said, guys, and I did this thing about how important it is to have a good profile pic or a good headshot of yourself. I mean, everybody needs one these days. So I turned to the camera, I said, look, I've got over 12,000 photographers on my site, headshotcrew.com. Go there, click the find a photographer link, put in where you live, see who shows up, and give them a call. And that created so much work around the world. It was amazing. I'm getting photographers emailing me or texting me or telling me, hey, this guy came in. Like the next week, we were like, this person saw you. They came in. So what I really want to do is build out that referral service, because a couple reasons is I think it's big business. I think right now to have I think people, when they want to search for a photographer, they go to Google or they go wherever, but they don't really have the people aren't vetted. It's not like, it's like you find whoever you find. Like some people happen to find me. Sometimes they don't. If I can be the go-to place where people know if you're going to get a good headshot in this world, it better be shot by a headshot crew photographer. That would be cool.
That's true.
And it put money in the pocket of the photographer, and it put a little money in my pocket. And I just think that it's an amazing opportunity for me. And so my goal would be to have headshot crew photographers worldwide shooting 1,000 headshots a day at some point. That would be.
I love the vetting part, because from a client perspective, that's very important. And that allows them to know, hey, I'm going to get quality work in the end. So a couple follow-up questions on that. One is, if somebody was interested in becoming a headshot crew photographer, what would they need to do? But then second, I lost my train of thought on the second. Second would be, if you are an up-and-coming photographer, talk about marketing and what's important to get their names out, things like that. And they're obviously separate questions.
Yeah, so the first thing, if they want to be, the way the headshot crew works is that they go sign up. If they want to be in my coaching program, it's $20 a month. Right now we have a deal where if you buy my book, you get 3 months for free. So it's like $100 value for $40. So they could do that. But once they get into the coaching program, they need to submit a portfolio to me in order to become one of my associates. That doesn't mean if they're just in the program, they won't get these referrals, and I can't promise the referrals anyway because they're happening randomly all over the world. But if they're associated with me, if they become one of my associates, that means that they went through an approval process. So they submitted a gallery to me. I approved it. The way that it works is that you need to have 15 solid headshots to be one of my associates in a portfolio. At least 15. I have them submit 20 to me. Usually it takes like 3, 4, or 5 reviews for people to get 15 shots by me. Sometimes it's very rare that somebody does it in like a few reviews. I don't think anybody's ever done it in one review. I think it's taken a couple for a few people, but most people take 3, 4, or 5 reviews. Yep. And then they become an associate. We've got about 80 of them, I think, on the site. So, and then if they wanted to if they thought they were good enough to do that, then they could do that. And then the referrals will go directly to them when jobs come. Like if I get a job with a client that says, hey, we have an office in blah, 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 I'll be like, great. Like for instance, I shot a company down in Wall Street area of Manhattan. I went down to the financial district and shot a company. The company had offices in Nashville. It's a music company that happens to be based near the World Trade Center. And they were like, oh my gosh, we need some people shot in Nashville. I was like, great, I got an associate there. Boom, call up the associate, give the associate a job. And we have other photographers that are referring work to all different people all over the world. It's really amazing. It's been incredible. So I think the world is getting smaller. The need for headshots is getting bigger. And the fact that we have everybody hooked up through this network is pretty incredible.
It's good. Awesome. Yeah. So as it relates to marketing, building a brand, any advice you'd give, aspiring photographers out there?
Yeah, find and nail down a look.
Okay.
Like it's all about a look. Like you have to figure out what that look is, and you have to create a portfolio that look like if I'm looking online for something and I want a portrait or a headshot or whatever, and I stumble across your site and I look at these portfolios of these people that you photograph, I want to see something so that I can say, oh, I want to go to this person. I don't want to see like haphazard a gazillion images of different people like looking all different. Like I want to know what I'm going to get when I'm going to go to you. So the portfolio has to be very consistent for a couple of reasons. One, it allows them something to latch on to. They understand what they're getting. Like with me, they know they're going to get if they're coming for a headshot with me, they know they're going to get a white background. Now I might mix it up and throw in a black or make it go gray. That's about the gist of what I do. But they know. Like I'm like, this is what I do. Like, no, you're not going to go outside and get like trees behind you. I just didn't see any picture like that on my website. That's not what you're going to get. So it's that kind of thing. Once you've nailed down a look, gotten the portfolio together, the work has to rock. I get so many photographers that are like, I'm marketing up the wazoo. I got everything going and I can't get anybody in front of my camera. Your work sucks. The work sucks. That's what I believe. There you go. Yeah, that's exactly. You know who I'm talking to. There's there's other photographers in the room, guys. Sorry.
Paying attention. All right, perfect. Peter, on the topic of the look, let's go to the last section, which is I tried to emulate the look. Now, I did it pure out of fun. I'm not a professional photographer, headshot photographer. So I went upstairs last night, and I do have lights because I do videos and tutorials, and I have a little bit of a white background. So I took my daughter up there, set up the lights, and I'd love for you to, first, I sent you 4 images, pick the one.
I see 'em.
Yep, all right. So take a look at them, talk me through what you're seeing, and beat me up. Do whatever you want to do.
I don't know how to beat you up. I mean, she's so adorable.
Right. She helps.
She's having fun, and she's making faces, and she's cracking up and stuff like that. I would say the one critique that I have is, were you directing her with your eye in the camera? Because she's not looking in the camera in any of them.
No, I was off to the side having fun playing with her.
That'll do it. So there's a thing in my book, I think it's in my book, and it's something that I learned, is that when you're photographing somebody, can you hand me that camera? Give me that camera. I got a camera here, guys. I'm a photographer. I'm in my studio. I have a camera.
There you go.
Okay. So let's say, when you're coaching somebody, you want to coach them from right here. You want to be here. You don't want to be over here, because now they're looking at you at the moment that you want to shoot. I can coach people here, but it's only to position them. Anytime I get a good reaction, I've got to be here. I want them looking down the center of this lens. At least if you're shooting headshots. I mean, if you're shooting a portrait or you're going for a vibe or something, and you've got the focus on them and you're not really worried about them moving, you're being focused at that moment, and you don't necessarily need them looking in the camera for a portrait, it's different. But if you're doing a headshot, right here, it makes it a lot easier for you want that person to connect with you through the camera. So you have to be talking through the camera for them to be focused in front of you. At least that's, from my experience, that's what I found. So in these pictures, she's having a blast, but she's looking at you off camera.
Exactly. Good advice.
Which is really cute. Yeah, I mean, my favorite one is the big, grinny, huge smile. It's so cute. She's got some gums, but that's all right. They're beautiful gums.
Yeah.
It's really cute. And the setup looks great. It looks like really nice, flattering light. It looks good.
Okay. I gave it an attempt.
It's similar to what I do. I started with my butt on a windowsill, and when I set up my lights, I set them up as much like a window as I can.
That's what I loved about it when I did put it together, was once I set it up, I checked the white balance, checked the lighting, I could just direct. And I was trying to emulate you in the sense of, I'm just going to have fun with her. And so I liked the constant lighting for that aspect of just being able to have fun, shoot, not worry about, settings after I set it up. So that was definitely kind of an aha moment, was just the fun we could have once we got started.
That's cool. And shooting your own kids is a challenge. I'm well aware of it.
Right. Exactly.
They don't listen to me at all. My kids.
I did ask my wife, I was like, how can I make her laugh? Like, we have fun all the time, but how do I do it on the spot? So she gave me a few little tips, and we had some fun with it.
There you go. Good.
Peter, I know we're running up on time. Thank you so much for joining us today. I love the conversation. Tons of value that you brought to us, and we really appreciate it. And, thank you so much for joining us.
My pleasure. Thanks for asking. This is cool.